Hello, everybody. This is Miss Susan, and these are the directions for what to do with your Utopia unit vocabulary assignment. So, the first thing is to start off on your agenda. Our agenda has the daily challenge, which is our learning target. It's basically the challenge of what you should have accomplished by the day, right? So, our daily challenge is I will be able to analyze the connection between images and vocabulary words. So we're going to use the definition and the examples of the vocabulary to help us understand an image that is presented. So first thing you need to do is open up the actual assignment. It is called Utopia Unit Vocabulary, and you can find it in your Canvas under modules or assignments. Modules or assignments, it's in both places. So go ahead and pause if you need to and open up that document. Okay, so hopefully you have that open or you've restarted me. So here, let's go ahead and take a look at what we need to do. The assignment is broken up into three basic parts. The first part is review and learn. The second part is making the actual connection. And the third part is a self-evaluation to see where you are with your vocab. So part one, review the vocab and examples. If we take a look at the actual assignment at the top, we have our 6 vocabulary words with the definitions all the way on the left. In the middle, we have an image that represents each of the vocabulary words. That way it helps to draw connections in our mind. And then lastly, we have a great list of examples. These really help you understand the vocabulary word, and they were so good that I'm going back and I'm adding rise tickets to all the students whose examples I decided to use. Really wonderful examples, so make sure you read through those. Okay, step 2. Step 2 is to examine each image and in complete sentences, explain which word represents the image and give reasons and details to support our answer. So that means providing evidence, right? So if we take a look, this is the only image that you don't have on your assignment. That one is for me to specifically do the example with. But you do have the rest of these, images 1 through 6. There's only 6, so it's not too bad. Now, there's not one specific vocab word for each image, so you can definitely talk about more than one. Let's walk through one example together before you all get started. So, take a look at the image I have here on my screen. The first thing is for you to, directions are at the top again, examine the image carefully. What do we mean by that? Well, notice what stands out. What is the image about? What are all the details that the artist includes? So I'm noticing a pretty plain background, but they are on a sidewalk, right? They're standing side by side. It's 2 women. One of them is holding a baby. She appears to be African. She also has what looks like a shawl or a blanket wrapped around her. It looks dingy or dirty, clearly has stains and rips and tears, no shoes, and nothing else in terms of clothing, accessories, or anything. The image, the woman on the left seems to be white. Her hair looks blonde. It looks like she is got, actually plump in comparison, not plump, normal, right? But like healthy, where the woman on the right looks a little thin, the baby looks thin. You can see her eyebrows are probably done, the makeup's going on, earrings, fashion, accessories, nail polish, bags full of things, boxes, gifts, keys, probably to a car, boots. So this is somebody who's following fashion, right? So first step is, what do you notice are the differences? Got it. Okay, so step 2, incomplete sentences. Explain which vocabulary word or words you feel it best connects to. So I think the best thing to do is look over the words and figure out what are a few words that go with it. I could talk about utopia because clearly this is the opposite of a utopia, so I might write dystopia, or I can just say it's the opposite, right? It's clearly not a perfect world. There is something that is going on here. And I think this is something that can be found in our world. It's kind of reality. So it's definitely not a utopia if it's reality. In a perfect world, we wouldn't want to see this type of difference. So I could talk about that. Let's see. Equality. I could definitely talk about equality here because I could talk about how this is the absence of equality. This is actually the opposite. This is inequality, right? We have a very, I mean, they're even standing side by side, so you might think like they should be equal, but they're not. And we can tell that based on everything that they're carrying around them. Equity. Clearly, somebody here has more than what they need. And so that's something that I can talk about too. Let's see, conformity. I mean, I could kind of talk about conformity a little bit. I think that if we take a look at our pictures, who's conforming to society, right? This woman here is clearly spending her money on consumerism, and there's advertisements everywhere. There's stores everywhere telling you to spend your money and that that's the right thing to do. And Christmas is coming, right? And all these holidays and presents and gift exchanging. And so that can be part of it, conforming to the system, to buy things, to be a consumer. What else do we have? Individuality and isolation. Well, I guess I could talk about those too. I think that individuality, one of the things that this tells me about individuality is that if you want to have your own individual fashion, individual style, you have to have the money to pay for it. So that kind of makes me stop and think about it differently, right? I really like having my own individual fashion and style, but that's definitely a privilege, right? I have the opportunity and a job that allows me a little bit of spending cash to buy necklaces and have hobbies where I make things and clothes and stuff, right? So that's interesting. And then isolation, I guess it makes me think of the woman on the right, makes me think of the way that maybe we isolate people in our society that don't have the money for these fashions, right? We specifically have high-rise buildings where we like, whoop, that's the affordable housing. I guess you're gonna have to all live cramped up in one giant building. We have homeless. Think about the ways that sometimes, and it's just how it is. Sometimes we look the other way or we cross the streets and we kind of pretend they're not there. That can be really isolating, right? So there's so many things. I can use this picture to talk about all 6 of the words, but I'm not going to ask you for 6 totally different answers. If you can answer up to 2 for each one, that would be awesome. So let me go ahead and start this off. I would say I would connect it to, which one did I say? Equality. So this is the opposite of, I'm going to bold it or change the font color. I don't have to capitalize it because it's in the middle of my sentence. So this is the opposites of equality. This image represents, oops, now I'm writing everything in bold, bold, bold. There we go. This image represents inequality. Oops. I'm going to highlight this one too. Represents inequality. And then what do we write after that? Well, next we give our evidence. Because in the image, the same way that you get evidence from a text, you get evidence from what you're looking at, right? So in the image, the white woman on the left has keys, purses, bags, presents. Her nails are done. She clearly has the means, and by that I mean money. clearly has the means, right? The money to buy the things she needs, right? But also wants. And we can tell that by the present, right? There is a present in her hands. That's like fun stuff, right? Um, there's a present in her hands. What else shows us like the extra, right? The nail polish. Just the abundance here. Great word for Thanksgiving, by the way, right? Abundance, having extra, having more than what you need. Just the abundance of packages clearly shows this. Meanwhile, mean line. Meanwhile, the woman on the right who has a child doesn't seem to be able to afford even the basics of food or anything, clothing, food or clothing, as evidenced by being barefoot and having nothing in there except each other. You can tell they struggle to eat based on the way the artist shows their hollow cheeks and thin limbs. Okay, admittedly, I explained a lot, and you don't have to explain that much. But yeah, there's a lot in this picture, so I wanted to include it. So that's me talking about inequality. At the same time, I can also bring in equity, right? Without even re-explaining it. This also, just explain the equity part, shows the opposite. Shows inequities. Inequities. Let me highlight this one. Also checking the time, running out of time, but it's okay. Also shows inequities because, and actually I just thought of this right now looking at the baby, because clearly they both need different things. Having a child, the woman on the left needs to have bags filled with food, formula, diapers, clothing, and other child care necessities, but doesn't. You can infer, right? You can take an educated guess that they are not making equal money or have equal opportunities. I mean, you can also infer it's based on race, right? And that part of it's due to the color of their skin. And you can also infer that this is something that is very much an American problem. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, that is a really long answer, and yours does not have to be that long, but I'm so excited to see what you guys come up with. Remember, you can definitely talk about more than one word. So inequality and equities here. How many words can you link to this one, right? And if you're not sure what this one is, go back and check the words. This one, ooh, I can already, there's like 3 that are popping out to me. A few here, that one's kind of challenging, right? So go through them carefully. Last step, ooh, in my last 14 seconds of talking, categorize the words, right? How well do you know them? If you know them really, really well, put them under expert. If you still are learning them, copy and paste them under novice. That's it. And then submit.